Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this has been a great conversation today. And I won't go back. One of my questions did deal with ARC and the payment discrepancies between counties. I think a number of you have already touched upon that. I'm glad to hear that. That's something that we can work on in the next Farm Bill. So I appreciate that. But through the discussion, we've also talked upon some other things that are really important, all building off of crop insurance. We've talked about loans. We've talked about young farmers and how they can engage in farming activities. We've also talked about trade. And Bruce, I'm going to go back to you, and let's talk a little bit about where we are as a country in leading the world. And in your testimony, you touched on the incredible yields that we have been able to experience through improvements made by corn farmers here in the United States. Because those farmers are embracing technology and conservation practices. And our production capabilities really are the envy of the world. I hear that from a number of different organizations in other countries. And we enjoy low food prices as a result of that, and a definite benefit for us. But what, in your opinion, are the things that the federal government should be doing or should not be doing to ensure that we're maintaining our leadership role in agriculture?
We need to keep our agriculture community strong, and for that, we are going to need to figure out how to increase demand for our products. We have kind of a three-legged stool of demand for corn between livestock, exports, and the ethanol industry, and we need to make sure that demand is ever increasing. The exports are the ones that probably have the most room to increase, and so it is absolutely crucial that we have a good trade potential climate worldwide so that we can find a home for this great bounty that we're able to produce.
Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly, and we've got to work on that export situation, and I'm glad that we have Secretary Perdue pushing that as an initiative as well. And I'd like to touch a little bit upon our young farmers as well. Several of you have mentioned that you are engaged in farming with other family members. You're getting your children involved in that discussion as well. So from the entire panel, just very briefly, I'd like to know, what were the biggest challenges that you faced when you entered into farming, and what challenges do you think our young farmers are facing now as you're trying to bring them into the farming operation as well? And we hear this from constituents all across the state of Iowa about how challenging it is, but maybe the differences between when you engaged in farming and maybe what you might see your children facing. And Mr. Rohr, if we could start with you, Bruce.
I started in the late 70s, so I was ahead of the farm crisis of the 80s. So those were the challenges I faced as I started, and I hope that my children will not face a similar economic downturn that we faced back at that time. I think that's the quickest way to put it.
Great, thank you.
I started in the 80s and didn't have anything and didn't know any better, and that was a good place to start. Our kids nowadays, the hard part of that is we currently have had pretty good farm economy in the past few years, and so our equipment and things are beautiful and wonderful, and we've got our infrastructure in pretty good shape. And I'm afraid that my son will not really know what hardship is, and this downturn has not all been bad. We could do pretty much what we wanted to in the past, and for infrastructure and things, and not being able to do that is not a bad thing for the young people. Having them to go through that, I think, will improve their ability to perform in the future.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I returned to the farm in the early 90s, and after having spent 3 months trying to purchase a small piece of land back then, trying to utilize USDA and beginning farmer loans, my banker threw his hands up in the air and said, I will just loan you the money for it because I know you and I know your family. So I hope as my son here plans on returning to the farm after he graduates out of college, that he can have access to the programs easier without having situations like that occur to him in the future.
I hear that frequently. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ernst. When I started farming in the early 1990s, we are a fifth-generation farm growing cotton. At the time, we had a vibrant cotton industry as well as a domestic textile industry. And in return, that is reversed, and now we export 75% of our raw cotton to foreign countries. As we look forward to moving our farm forward with the sixth generation and possibly forward after that, without an effective safety net for cotton, then our future is uncertain. And cotton is what's paid for our farms. It's what's done everything for us. We are the best, we're the most efficient farmers in the world at what we do. And U.S. cotton is the envy of the rest of the world. And we look forward to working with Congress and everyone else to make sure that we have excellent trade for our cotton and that we can expand markets and that we have a place for our cotton to go, and hope that our farm can continue. It started in 1842 and that we can continue well on into the next century.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you.
I came back to the farm in the mid-'90s and actually walked our rice fields and did a lot of the agronomy at that time. So I think moving forward, the financial area was much more difficult to conquer. So I think as my son enters into the operation, new farmers, the agronomy will come easy. We're great at producing food in this country, and actually that may actually be the easy part. I think understanding the financial, the governmental, the crop insurance, the regulatory areas of farming in the future are going to be very important to new farmers.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.